So, but actually, what is the worst case scenario that will happen from this escalations of war between Israel versus Hamas? We know that this has been an ongoing multiple years between Israel versus Hamas, not only economic, but also politically, the instability that is going there. And it's also an unfortunate events of humanity, as we mentioned here. What is the worst scenario that will happen from this escalation?
The worst scenario could be what we have calculated at Juwai IQI. If this linger on for a month, oil prices will go to $100.
Okay.
Oil touches $100, that will put a huge drag on the global economy.
Yes,
that is
especially the higher interest rate era.
Yes. And if this war continues for another 2 months, the oil prices will touch between $125 to $150. That will lead global economy into a major recession. So the chances of global economy going into deep L-shaped recession is 50% right now.
How much? How many percent?
50% right
50%.
now. 50%. If this war escalates for the next 2 months. But it's very difficult to predict at this point of time.
Yeah, but anyway, 3,000 of people have been the victims of the escalation that happened just a week. And if you said 2 months, that would be not only a worst case scenario, but that is also very possible, right? To see this dynamics that is going on, because as we see, Israel is putting a lot of as a self-defense, and it's not a. I'm not sure about this, but can you tell more about how does this stances between other big countries will happen to affect the economy globally? Just such as the United States will have a stance on Israel, and then the other country will have a stance on Palestine. How does this dynamics and politics and taking stances will affect the global economy?
Very rightly said, there's a great schism among economies, among major players in the global economy. How this will, this escalation will end, premature to say, unpredictable, but the way things are moving up, it looks a very, very precarious scenario. If this goes out of hand of all the players who are involved in this, so especially the major players, if they don't stop this war, then I don't foresee the global economy recovering fast. It will be a huge impact, and it will be a huge drag on the global economy, and that will affect everyone.
That surely will affect everyone, not only, obviously the economy, obviously the people and so on. Now, I will ask you about the inflation rate, because you mentioned if the war continue to be at 1 month, the oil price will reach $100 US.
Yes.
If it continues to be 2 months, 20-ish, how do you see this will affect the inflation level that is actually currently being tamed by the Federal Reserve all over the world, the central bank all over the world, on combating high inflation?
We shared with our investors since last year, inflation is not going to come down. Inflation will stay high. And everything...
For how long?
Maybe not before, it will not come down before 2026 and 2027. The reason is very simple. Your life and my life, it depends on oil and gas. And oil is going up. So everything is linked to oil, whether it's supply chain, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's EV, everything is related to oil and gas. So are we heading back to, the question is, are we heading back to the same era of 2008, when on 11 July 2008, oil prices were trading at $147? So I would say possible, it could happen, but it will not stay there for longer, because once the global economy goes into recession, the consumption pattern will come down. And obviously we have seen Japan, UK, Europe, US, where consumption patterns are not very strong. So I think oil prices will not stay higher, but because of the geopolitical risk, that is going to bolster the risk premium in the oil market.
And right, so if the inflation level will keep being at high until 2026, how does the global economy cope up with it? How does the strong consumption can still be pushed, can still be encouraged, and how does the economy of the whole world can be safe? Another formula, sir.
Again, if you read Economist magazine 2021, they have mentioned that inflation will stay higher in advanced economies and it will stay lower in emerging markets.
Emerging economies, just like Indonesia.
Yes. So emerging markets, the central banks have done a good job in taming inflation as compared to Fed or ECB or Bank of Japan or even Bank of England. They have not been able to do a pretty good job. And I follow Milton Friedman. Milton Friedman wrote in his book 33 years ago how Fed is going to create crisis in the form of inflation. And what is happening right now, we have read the script. So we know what is coming into the market. So this inflation, it will stay higher in advanced economies and it will stay lower in emerging markets like Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore.